I just spent 155 hours making this incredible chain lightning Diablo diorama, which I built to help me cope with the disappointment of Diablo 4. So grab a drink,
Or your favorite snack.
and let's make something. Diablo has been one of my favorite game series for over 20 years. I love the addicting gameplay loop, the cool skills and build crafting, the super gritty dark setting, the incredible soundtrack, and of course the loot drops that just hit so right.
Oh yeah.
So when Diablo 4 was announced, I was incredibly hyped. It kind of felt like an old friend was moving back into town, and I literally could not wait for the game to come out. But when I played Diablo 4 on release, I was just very disappointed. At least to me, it felt less like a complete game and more like an engagement simulator. The combat felt shallow, the loot was boring, and the system seemed designed for player retention instead of just being fun. Along with the aggressive microtransactions and shoehorned battle pass system, it really felt like that long-lost friend invited me to hang out, only to find out that they just wanted to lure me into their multi-level marketing scheme. And I'll be real with you guys, it made me very sad. Like, I am embarrassed to admit how sad that this stupid video game made me feel. But rather than join on the bandwagon of people hating the game, I decided that I wanted to do something positive instead of negative. In fact, that's kind of the entire point of my new channel. I just want to help bring people happiness with art. And I thought, hey, how cool would it be to make a miniature diorama about Diablo that really celebrates the series? I want to make this memorial to all the amazing games and experiences and memories that Diablo has given me and so many other people as well. One thing that I did actually really like about Diablo 4 was the art direction. Specifically, this early game dungeon really captured my attention. I love the sinister crumbling masonry, the mysterious mist and dark shadows, the forced perspective that implies there's an endlessly larger world just beyond your view, and these looming obelisks that kind of hang oppressively above the camera. It's just so wonderfully Diablo, and I thought it would make the perfect backdrop for the diorama. So here's the plan. We're going to make a cool ancient bridge. We'll surround it with some big looming pillars, then cover the base with cotton to make it look like mist. The centerpiece of the diorama will feature a battle scene of one of the Diablo heroes versus some demons.
Damn, yo. This is gonna be epic.
For the enemies, I knew it had to be the Fallen. They're these cute little demon guys that show up in every game, and they're probably my favorite enemies in the entire series. They add this hilarious goofiness to an otherwise very serious game, and they're super fun to fight. I managed to get some miniatures off Etsy, and they are literally perfect. For the hero, we're going to make a sorceress because I love magic classes and I've been hitting that wizard pipe since 1998. Since Chain Lightning is my favorite spell in the series, I'm going to have her shooting electricity out of her hands, and I have a pretty cool idea for how I'm going to make that effect. Even in their unpainted form, I was already getting very excited for this project. After doing some quick measurements to get a sense of scale, I whipped out my notebook to calculate the dimensions, and then we could get to building. I started by quickly constructing the base out of cardboard. Now, I know that it looks pretty terrible at this stage, but I had a lot of fun with this part. It kind of reminded me of those rare school projects where the teacher let you be creative and you could just have fun with it. Now that I had the base, it was time to cover it with bricks. Using a hot wire foam cutter I bought for the project and some high-density foam board, I started shaving off pieces to make individual bricks. This is the first time I had ever used one of these, and it is super satisfying. Just listen to this.
Oh my God!
And after a series of cuts, I ended up with a little pile of bricks like this. I used this Papa John's paper plate to hold them all. Man, just mentioning Papa John's makes me so hungry. Better ingredients really do make for better pizza, you know? I'm gonna have to order some for dinner tonight. Cutting the bricks out individually seemed like a good idea at the time, but it got old very quickly. Here's me about 5 hours into the process.
Dude, this sucks.
And eventually, I ended up with a little pile like this. To make them look even more like bricks, I used a little trick that I learned from the amazing Black Magic crafts. I threw them into a box with some rocks, then shook them up. As you can see, it adds a wonderful texture to some otherwise very bland looking cubes. The next step was individually gluing all the little bricks to the base. Now, this took many hours, and I couldn't think of a way to make this footage exciting, so I asked Tippothy to help me edit the video.
You dare ask me, Tippothy, Demon Lord of Hell, to edit your video? I'll show you the true meaning of power. Burn, mortals. Burn in the fire of my sick editing skills.
And there you have it. I think it looks pretty good, but unfortunately I only made enough bricks for one side, so I had to do all of that all over again. To clean things up, I shaved off the bricks that were sticking out, then used some larger slabs to line the bottom. And I really liked how these different sized bricks stood out from the rest. Then I added some big slabs for the stairs. And as a final touch, I used a rolled up ball of aluminum to add even more texture and unevenness to the sides. Although it was a massive pain, I have to say using individual bricks like this looked really nice. And if you think it looks nice too, please subscribe, like, and comment. It would really help my brand new channel grow. Now for the top of the bridge. In the game, the surface of the top of the bridge looks like it's a different material than the sides. It looks more like smooth stone rather than bricks, almost as if some ancient civilization built the structure around a natural rock formation. Now, I had no idea how I was going to replicate this, so I went ahead and asked for some help. Oh, Gerbils of wisdom, how should I make the top of the bridge? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yep, I can't believe I didn't think of that. Now, I had never done this before, but I came up with this idea to use plaster of Paris. It's a plaster that comes in a powder form that you mix with water to solidify. I mixed up some sheets like this, then broke them apart into random pieces. I used my Papa John's paper plate to store the pieces, reminding me that there's really no other pizza chain that can meet their dedication to quality and amazing flavor, especially for a family on a budget. Better pizza, better ingredients, better pizza, better ingredients. After breaking up all of the pieces, I carefully arranged them kind of like a mosaic, then spread some lightweight putty between the cracks. This stuff is really cool. It comes in the consistency of whipped cream, and honestly, it makes me kind of hungry. The bridge didn't end up being quite as smooth as I wanted it to be, but it's always important to be kind to yourself when you're trying something new. To begin, I cut out some long boxes with my foam cutter, as well as some smaller struts and little platforms. I used the same aluminum foil trick to add some texture, and you can see how easy and simple and wonderful this effect is. I noticed in-game that the pillars have some really cool, jagged, golden details on the side. It almost looks like they poured molten gold into the crevices. I chose to replicate this effect by cutting some lines, then filling the gaps with a little bit of uneven wire. Assembling each pillar ended up taking a really long time, so I used a little trick that I learned from LEGO Star Wars. You see, all you have to do is hold the X button down and you can basically build anything in about 6 seconds. I really should have just done this for the entire project. And there you have it. With the pillars done, the scene was beginning to look really great. For the lightning effect, I used these LED wires that I bought from China. Full credit to Boylai Hobby Time, one of my favorite crafting channels, for the hookup. They'll be wired on either end, then run through this USB module for power. Now, I have never used one of these, so here's my candid reaction the first time I turned one on. Dude, that is so cool. These things are freaking awesome. They basically turn into light noodles as soon as you turn them on, and it is just super cool to see in real life. I must say, many aspects of this hobby are incredibly frustrating, but this was so cool. It was one of those moments that totally makes everything worth it. After testing it, the next thing I had to do was actually do the wire work. Now, I've never soldered anything before in my entire life, so I watched some YouTube videos and just started hacking away at it. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, but in the wise words of Jake the dog,
"Dude, sucking at something is the first step towards being sorta good at something."
Once I was totally sure that the circuit was actually working, I started to carefully run the wires through the bridge, leaving only the LED wires on top. I made the bridge to have a removable top, but in order to fill in this broken area, I'd have to fill it with putty. This meant that I'd no longer be able to access the wire once I sealed it in. I really prayed that I did it right, then filled in the side with Sculptamold.
Oh, thank God it works.
Alright, at long last, it's time to paint. The first step was sealing the entire thing with some Mod Podge. Now, I had never done this before, and I made a horrible mistake. I didn't water it down. This ended up leaving some horrible brush strokes across the top, and it basically ruined the entire texture of the model. Unfortunately, I couldn't think of a clever solution to this, so the only thing that I knew to do was to literally wet sand every single surface of the model. This literally took me so long. I watched the entirety of the Star Wars prequels plus another movie before I was finished. When that was finally done, I cleaned things up with some gray paint, then did a little dry brushing on the sides with a lighter color. You can see how much of a difference this simple technique makes in comparison, and these pieces finally started to look like real stone. With a bit of gold paint added to the accents, the bridge was pretty much done. Now, on to the miniatures. Finally, something I actually know how to do. For the sake of time, I've really condensed down this section, but essentially I painted on progressively brighter layers of color, then blended them together with some glazes. If you guys are interested in more in-depth tutorials and techniques, please let me know in the comments below. To be honest, I don't actually know what you guys are interested in watching, so I can definitely make some changes in the next video. While I'm finishing all of this up, I want to tell you guys something very important. You are very special, and I like you just the way you are. Since the beginning of time to the literal heat death of the universe, there will never ever be another person like you, and that is amazing. As a kid, it was Mr. Rogers who taught me this incredibly valuable lesson, and I feel like there's somebody out there who needs to hear it today. Alright, Tippothy, back to the build.
You got it, boss.
I have to say, I had the most fun with this stage. Most of the build was me kind of pushing myself to try things I'd never done before, but miniature painting is something that I've done for many, many years. It's still such a joy to bring out all the little details and really appreciate the sculpt of the minis. And by the power of editing, about 45 hours of painting is now done. The leader ended up looking really great. This abomination turned out suitably creepy. This little exploding variant was really fun. And then we had the regular demons. Finally, the sorceress herself. I know she doesn't look as accurate as the Fallen, but I did try my best to keep the same color scheme and kind of themes as the sorceress from the games. I did manage to add one cool little detail that made me very happy. I noticed when I was painting that she had a couple scrolls on her belt, so I decided to paint these blue and red to represent the town and identify scrolls from the game. Alright, the moment you and I have been waiting for. I started by carefully wiring all the miniatures, gluing them in place, and trying to pose them as if they were in a battle. To make the lightning look a little bit more like electricity, I added these little bent wires to kind of simulate sparks. After doing some testing with the stuffing for mist, everything was pretty much ready to go. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching my video. You guys have no idea what it means to me. I've never shot or edited or produced a video before, and just this simple one took me about 6 months or so. So if you could please like and comment and subscribe for the algorithm, that'd be really awesome, because if I don't get enough views, Papa John's will literally kill my entire family. For the final reveal, I want to share with you guys my favorite song from the entire Diablo series. Please enjoy the footage and stick around to the end for something special. Please don't make me do this. Millions of people are gonna die.
Billions.
Huh, that was kind of weird. Tippothy, did you notice anything? Hi, welcome to Pepe's Mailbox, where I answer your questions from my comments and Patreon.
If I had one!
Well, since this is my first video, I don't have any comments to respond to yet, so I asked my friends to submit some anonymous questions. By the way, where is Pepe? Alright, our first question comes from Barry McCockner. Barry asks, how do I convince my wife that Warhammer and Magic cards are good financial investments? Well, Barry, I got some bad news for you. If you want a good financial investment, might I suggest putting your money into a 401k. However, there is a big difference between what something costs and what something is worth. So I'll use Warhammer for example. I have been painting Warhammer miniatures for like over 20 years or so, and during that time, although I've spent a lot of money on, tiny plastic men, I've learned a lot about building a skill, perseverance, learning from other people, teaching other people, sharing hobbies together, and to me, although the cost was very high, the value was absolutely worth it. Our next question comes from Professor Pinkenstink. They ask, the other day I said the word slay in front of my kids' friends. They said hurtful things and threw pine cones at my head. I begged them to stop, but they just kept calling me titty boy while T-posing in a perimeter around me. Would you say applying primer is 100% necessary when painting a mini? Oh, Professor, absolutely. When you're painting a miniature, you're already spending dozens of hours to make it look perfect. But if you skip the priming step, you vastly increase the chances that the paint is going to chip off. The second thing that I don't think a lot of people talk about is if you try to paint onto completely unprimered plastic, the paint itself tends to behave differently and makes it much more difficult to paint. Our last question is from Cuckold for Cocoa Puffs, and they ask, who is your favorite Overwatch character? I think it's a tie between Winston and Ash. I really like Winston because he encourages very thoughtful play, and although his kit is extremely simple, there's a lot of mechanical nuance that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. I also really like Winston's personality. He is kind and optimistic. He sort of serves as the heart of Overwatch, and I enjoy that is at complete odds with his role in the game, which is basically to make support players want to uninstall. I also really like Ash. Her abilities are very stylish, and I got to meet her voice actress, Jennifer Hale, aka Commander Shepard, in real life once. If you'd like to be featured on Pepe's Mailbox, leave me a comment below or consider supporting me on Patreon. Who knows, your question could show up next time. Speaking of which, my next video will be painting Karlach from Baldur's Gate 3, so be sure to subscribe to see that. See ya!